Right, please welcome Tony Omwansa. Now, this guy has been a part of Kenya's ecosystem since day dot and has the mandate of leading the Kenya National Innovation Agency. There are very few agencies in countries that actually have an ecosystem strengthening mandate. And this is one of them, and it's one of the first in Kenya. And we've learned a lot. When was it established?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay. It's a tough gig when your job is to strengthen an innovation ecosystem. It's complex, it's chaotic, but this man always comes to it with a smile and a sense of humor, and I think that's why I love him, because that's the attitude you need. You need that energy. Now, not content with taking on the leadership of Kenya, you're also now taking on the leadership of a very exciting new initiative called the Innovation Agencies of Africa Network. And to tell you all about that, over to Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time do I have? 25 minutes. Okay. That's inclusive questions, huh? Okay. All right. Thanks very much. May I share a little story about what we're trying to do? I used to do stuff in a university context, and I was very happy. Grants, projects, and so on and so forth. And then somebody one day came and told me, oh, we need you to do something for government. And so I walked into an innovation agency that was starting, and government is a very complex place, as you know. And I walk in, and I thought there was a system. And then I find I was alone. And then you start building that system. So it's been 5 years of putting together this institution and trying to organize the national system of innovation in Kenya. And, you know, if I tell you to head an institution that is making roads, you count the kilometers of roads done. Then I ask you to head an institution that is going to manage the national system of innovation. I don't know what you measure. People can't see a road. They can't see a building. They can't see whatever. And every problem is your problem. Why? Because the education system will be a problem. Access to funding will be your problem. And you are not necessarily the funder. But, you know, investment will be a problem. Infrastructure will be a problem, and you don't build infrastructure. You don't build facilities. So it was a bit of a lonely environment the first many months, and then you don't have a team, but you build the team around it. But despite all that, we've had quite some success in moving this agenda forward. Now, as I started building these efforts of the Innovation Agency, I kept wondering, who do I need to talk to within the context and see what we can learn and how we can share knowledge and so on and so forth. And I didn't find a network regionally. Okay. So the first thing I did, I called the innovation agency in South Africa. I said, you know, why don't we start thinking about this? Yeah, great idea, come, let's talk about it. But it didn't happen. Some of the seeds you plant take many years to translate. It wasn't a priority. But about a year ago, it became a priority to some other people. And then we pulled effort together and said, let's establish the network. And that's the story I'm going to tell you, what we're doing and what we hope to achieve with time. So we've set it up not too far off from the way IDIA is organized, but it's a collaborative initiative. So we've pulled together the innovation agency. So far, a couple of them have signed up, and we've started engaging on a number of programs. The challenges of the innovation ecosystem in Africa are not very different from the challenges of the innovation ecosystem in Kenya, the ones that I faced. Policy incoherence, I think you can relate with that. Not to say that we expect everything to be coherent, but there is the element of policy issues. Collaboration wasn't much, and understandably so, because there wasn't a platform. Capacity. I struggled with capacity as I tried to build the innovation agency. And I walked to a few countries and I could see capacity challenge. Same story. Okay, so what we can pull together, and who is... I remember meeting a vice chancellor and who said, you know, there is no university you go to become a vice chancellor. You don't get that, you learn on the job, right? And so, but you have to have mechanisms of continuous capacity building. And then funding, like we all will say. So this, we all related with them and said, let's see how we can pull together. So we put up this innovation agency network with 3 objectives. The operational capacity, and we said manpower issues. So we want to try and strengthen skills. So we'll design programs of skill strengthening, trying to pull resources together, and governance structures. And we saw challenges around, board issues and how governance operates and so forth. So we want to make sure that the innovation agencies by themselves are effective in delivering their mandate. There are slightly different interpretations of what innovation is to different innovation agencies. Some are more accelerators, some are more ecosystem builders, some are more funders, aggregators, and so on and so forth. But the fundamentals remain the same. Secondly is enhancement of cross-border collaboration. And this could be in the form of knowledge sharing, joint projects, and to figure out if we can scale some innovations that are succeeding in some places and could be very relevant in others. And thirdly is the capacity of the agencies to transform and champion transformative changes in the policies and programs. I have observed that, as an innovation agency, my job is to implement a policy, not to develop policy. We make recommendations on policy, and then it depends on how the government systems will function, you lobby, and so on and so forth. But even when policies are actually activated, implementation becomes a problem. Interpretation and effective implementation, decoding, translating, organizing into programs, rallying people behind this, and so forth, it becomes a problem. It's like our climax becomes a policy. And then from there, it's an anticlimax. Maybe because we are too theoretical in the way we do it. So we thought we need to strengthen the agencies to become agents of influence. And we've tested a bit of that in Kenya and a few other countries we've seen how it's working. So we've got a set of principles that are guiding: inclusivity, green, and digital. And we've tried to mainstream this in the thinking of how innovation agencies are interacting with their ecosystems in their individual countries. Okay, so in terms of structure, we've got an oversight board. So formative stage, we've got a couple of institutions there. IDRC is in it, South Africa's Research Foundation. Then we've got a steering committee, and we're still reflecting on how to strengthen that. So it's about a year of work, so not yet there, right? And what exactly the purpose is. We just had a steering committee meeting 2 weeks ago in South Africa, and we started debating about what the purpose is and the kind of people we need in a steering committee. Do you need a very successful researcher, an innovator, an entrepreneur, a former president? And what purpose do we want? And so we're taking time off to reflect. We have some names, but we're taking time off to reflect. And the feeling now is that we just want very influential people. Why? Because innovation is such a hard thing to sell. It sounds very nice, but go to the bureaucratic system of government, it's a hard nut to sell, especially when it doesn't translate to votes. But it sounds very nice to put it in presentations and lectures. So we're looking for influential people who help raise the profile of this agenda. Steering committee is made up of CEOs of innovation agencies across the membership. And they shape the agenda, they shape the priorities, and so on and so forth. Below it is a secretariat, and that's a team, supporting all the administrative work and so forth. And then we've got implementing partners that we are working with on a number of issues. By the way, as part of that debate of advisory council and oversight board, where would I put a minister in charge of science, technology, and innovation? I don't know how other networks have done it, but it's interesting that one of the conversations we were having in South Africa with the steering committee is that if you disconnect this from the mainstream government system, your sustainability, your funding, your influence are under threat. So they were toying around with probably putting influential people within the advisory committee and figuring out what's the linkage, and then try to get also the government national system connected to this network. A good thing, and sometimes a bad thing, because you easily get caught up in the bureaucracy and so on and so forth. We'll see. We are iterating and we'll see where we'll end, but these are things we are all reflecting upon. So there is a team of institutions, and we've tried to make sure that this is not a one institutional agenda. It's try to get all the innovation agencies put the skin in the game. The network is as good as the value that the individual members will bring on board. So far we've got an implementing team from institutions. South Africa's, Namibia's, Kenya's, and University of Johannesburg is providing support from a research standpoint, data analysis, and such like. And IDRC and NRF South Africa have come in so far from a funding angle, from advisory standpoint and direction, as we look to grow this kind of partnerships depending on the value that they will bring on board. So this is year one. And I don't like my life sometimes because heading, now like you're heading an institution and you've been heading another one called an innovation agency. And we've got another one we call the Network of Entrepreneur Institutions in Kenya. So sometimes, balancing becomes challenging. But we've made some success. In 1 year, we've got 9 countries already on board, formally signed up. Ethiopia, Tanzania, as you were starting to frame them up. And we have another 5 or so where we're in discussion on how they join. We project that maybe by the end of the second year, we would significantly maybe be heading to 20 or thereabout. What kind of members are these? We currently look at innovation agencies who have that catalytic role 100%, or science granting councils that have an innovation agenda. So in other words, there are countries like in Tanzania, for example, they don't have an independent innovation agency. They've got this regulator, but within them, they've got research funding and they've got innovation support and ecosystem building. So within that period of time, we've also had some pilot projects between countries. What would it mean to drive an innovation agenda or project in more than 2 countries that is user-centered, that is scalable, that gains traction? And the design of it and rollout is collaborative. Not an easy question, but we have piloted one, and now we've got a couple of countries working on a joint project where maybe an innovator comes from a country, they've got a prototype, and we think it can work in another country, and someone else is thinking through what the soft landing mechanisms would look like. So we're running a few collaboration, commercialization projects. And then we've also done some capacity building. We've gone on some training programs and gotten the senior innovation officers from the innovation agencies to come spend a week together, reflect on experiences of being an effective innovation agency. Now, this is how we've organized the work so far. We have 4 pillars. First pillar is around capacity strengthening. So we've got kind of a packet. And then say, okay, we're looking to strengthen institutional skills, enhance transformation in terms of digital innovation management, peer learning, and so on and so forth. And then we've got a lead agency within the membership, championing Malawi, bringing in expertise, developing some digital platform that will enable strengthen peer learning, and so on and so forth. And Namibia and Cape Verde have joined to kind of champion that piece of work. Within the Secretariat, we've got a focal person on capacity building. And so as we design programs from the country standpoint, we bring it to the Secretariat, have a champion, think through, shape it, and then we bring it to the steering committee, then endorse it, and then move into implementation. We're also thinking that somewhere along the way, we will probably have some working groups of individuals from different countries working on capacity building so that then you have a point of bouncing off ideas. Second is what we are considering to be strategic programs and projects. Cross-border pilots, I just gave an example. Tech transfer, you and I would relate. Commercialization, ecosystem development, soft landing initiatives. We think this is going to be a very interesting space of work. And there are several agencies that have really expressed excitement around this. So in Kenya will lead that framework and then co-opt the rest. Namibia has also signed up to be part of it. The third pillar of work is around policy, and we keep asking whether we are more about policy influence or policy development or whatever that is. But any issues around the intelligence of policy, influence, lobby, if we must, or advocate, or whatever that may be, foresight, analysis, evidence-based decision support, and so forth. Currently, Kenya is leading. We're looking for someone to lead. Nobody was willing to sign up. But we hope we will get a different country to champion that work. And University of Johannesburg is providing support around data, analysis, and visioning. And lastly is innovation funding and sustainability. So the question is, can we build an innovation fund? That's one of the things we're exploring, a Pan-African innovation fund. And secondly is, how do you build this network into a sustainable institution? From day one, thinking deeply about it. So South Africa is involved in thinking through the legal structures. Tanzania is thinking through the financial sustainability and so forth. And then Ethiopia is providing leadership on innovation funding. So come year 2, we just made some decisions to move in a little more aggressively into scaling the inter-country commercialization project, prioritizing the establishment of the innovation fund, soft landing program, strengthening capacity building and knowledge exchange. So we'll do a bit of that engagement. And there is a feeling that innovation maturity it's about time to put together some kind of index and kind of maturity framework. Because in the context, for example, I am in, as you engage in government, there can be some excitement about products or funding. Everybody talks about access to funding. But we don't spend a lot of time talking about access to infrastructure. Or there can be so much attention on infrastructure at the expense of capacity development. And so we feel we need to put something that we can all agree across the countries around how do we measure progress at national level and at institutional levels. And some form of index. So there are debates about whether we have appropriate indices so far, indices. And then the legal structures is something we'll be putting in. So thanks to this effort, it has led to a desire to collaborate with more people. And so there are several conversations going on about what partnerships can we build and put it into our organogram and say, we've got the following partners. So IDIA is one of those that we've started deeply talking. And I'm here to announce that we'll be signing a collaboration agreement today. So I don't need to tell you about IDIA. Thank you. But we've identified aspects and areas in which we can work together. IDIA bringing in the global expertise, trainers, resource persons, scaling frameworks, global insights, and so forth. That's great. We're able to bring in the Pan-African convening capacity, the mandates of the innovation agencies. If you have more government institutions that are championing innovation in our meetings in IDIA, I think that's a great outcome, strengthening our continental reach in a coordinated way. So we've already connected with the priorities of IDIA and how that fits in our context. And we think that there will be several outputs as a result of our collaboration. We probably see opportunities to access more experts and trainers, regional, and part of what we've been trying to figure out is how do we make IIA a place to get insights about innovation ecosystem evolution at country level in Africa, as well as regional level. Training programs, we can potentially co-design a few. I see the IIA participating. Today I may be alone, but I think I saw 1 or 2 members of the Secretariat right behind there. and vice versa as we move forward, co-hosting meetings, mutual participation in networking events, as well as peer-to-peer exchange programs. These are other conversations that are happening, and I think they look progressive. We'll figure out exactly how we'll partner. Thank you very much.